What do small businesses actually need to make sure that every second they spend implementing an AI tool and then actually using it is worth their time and they're getting the return on investment they want? Because at the end of the day, the core of a small business is maximizing every single second so you can stand out in a crowded market. Right now, the business world is obsessed with AI. Every major corporation throws it into every single commercial, interview they have, or earnings call they do. And it feels a little daunting for a small business owner because how can you possibly keep up with the amount of money, time, energy they are putting into this thing? They have thousands of folks that they can devote to use that in their current day job so that they can get a lot of information from it. It really starts to create that feeling that you're one step behind and you really can't catch up as hard as you're trying. The largest organizations in the world are devoting big money to try to improve their own AI within their company, with Amazon devoting $100 billion to its own AI infrastructure. You have Goldman Sachs with a 15,000 person pilot group for theirs so they can just build it out. And then you have Procter & Gamble, who built their own chat agent within their company itself. All of that to say that these companies are betting big on what AI is going to be, and it's not going well in all instances, because the truth is it's hard to change people at the end of the day. AI is a huge part of this, but somebody's got to be doing something at some point, and you're changing processes of what people have done for 20 years. You're changing their expectations of their job roles, and in those larger companies, it fundamentally shakes a lot of what they've been doing for decades. That's why in this video, we're going to piggyback off of the foundings that they just got from all of their pilot tests, all of their tens of thousands of employees. We're really going to understand some of the pitfalls they went into, some of the lessons learned we can glean from them, because although they're huge organizations, people are people, and it still impacts what we do today. In businesses, largely work the same at a lot of different scales. So if we can understand the lessons that were taken from those large organizations and then put them inside of a small business, that's going to allow us to ultimately close that gap and be more competitive in our market. Which brings us to lesson one of there not being a single owner, because the truth is at the start of this, you're going to be the most excited about it. You're going to be the one understanding the use cases that it can be actually implemented within, and you're going to be trying to sell your team on it, but they're going to be just be going through the processes of their current job. They're going to be trying to make sure that they're doing the things that keep the business moving along. But you can't retain the ownership of this the entire time because you have to be focused on strategy and then revenue generating opportunities. This also looks pretty similar in larger organizations because although they have more people, they're all still have day jobs. So what ends up happening there is that you do these AI initiatives and you go in and tell people to use this and you spread it really thin across your entire team, but no one actually picks it up because they're not held accountable. They don't understand what they're actually doing. And all of that sounds pretty familiar to a small business as well. All of these things are applicable across the board. And it's really about defining a key person that is met, and it's a part of their actual job to keep track of this thing and make sure that it is moved forward and that the use cases it's defined against are actually succeeding. How you make this become a reality is by using one simple document. We're going to call it an AI owner brief. The idea is it needs three things. The first being a clear use case, because you want to take this AI, you don't just want to throw it and say, use it for a bunch of different things. You want to have a clearly articulated reason that you're implementing it and something it will improve on. The second is you want to identify a person that's going to have ownership of it. Preferably, you want the person having ownership of it tied in some way to the actual use case that it's going to be performing, because they're going to have the most insight and they'll be able to understand how it actually improves their day in and day out. Number three is you need to set up a cadence that's going to be structured, because if it's once a week for 15 minutes to check in on this, this is really important because you have to understand that these kind of efficiencies compound. If you're not going to spend the 15 minutes and waste it, if you check in the first week, see it's not going well, it gives you time to adjust. If you realize it is, you can build on it and then expand. It's really the idea of devoting the time that needs to be taken to build this further. Lesson number two is that data just starts to get scattered, because you have to think in these larger organizations, they've been around for decades. They have systems on top of systems that they've ultimately implemented and tried to phase out, but it never really worked. So they have this data all over. That makes it really hard for them to pull the data they need for the AI to either learn or act against the information they can so they can build on their own use cases. In a microcosm, that happens in a small business as well, because ultimately you might be doing things on spreadsheets. You might be doing things on a different scheduler. You might have your own smaller CRM you're working within. And we have to make sure to some capacity that they talk. At least they talk in the form that your use case is going to be in, because if you want it to schedule a client, but it's not attached to the scheduler, we're going to have a really hard time making a good use of this case. By understanding where your company is technologically, you can understand how ready you are for AI, because AI is this change that has to happen. It's a thing people have to adopt. It's a thing that they're going to change their processes about. So if you put it into a technology, or you have to implement an entirely new technology to bring it in so the AI speaks together and those systems can work, that compounds complexity because now they have to learn a new process, they have to learn a new scheduler, and they have to use this AI in the way that you've dictated for them. To catalog the technology that you use is going to be simpler than it might sound, because really what you need is about 30 minutes, a piece of paper, and then a line down the middle. Because on one side of the line, we're going to have systems, and on the other, it's going to be, can you export or connect these systems to the AI model that you're going to be using? Because the idea is you want to define all the systems you use, all the technology that takes place, the invoicing tool, the scheduler. If somebody in your business has a Excel file they keep something on, because that's going to help you define, can you connect it? Does your scheduler have a connection with an AI model that can just run all your data to it and make it really simple? Can you export a file from that Excel spreadsheet that they're using so that you can load that right into it? Ultimately, it's about enriching the model itself, because if it has information to work off of, it'll get closer to the use case that you want it to do. For the third part, it's defining what success looks like before you start, which sounds pretty self-explanatory. It sounds like common sense. You know exactly what use case you're going to. You know you want your company to get better at a certain thing. So how would you not know the success that you want before you start? And we're talking about something very key. We're talking about the indicators, the things you can measure against so you know if it was successful or not. The amount of how much time you save or how much more money did you make. That's really what we're honing in on here. The reason I believe this is the most important one is because this is the one that you get swept up in the easiest. This is the AI words you hear all the time. This is the thing that you want to implement, that it'll improve everything in your business idea, but people step into it saying it'll help us save time, it'll help us save money, but really what does it do for us? How do we know if it was successful or not? Because in the limited amount of time and resources you have, because you're growing your business and trying to be competitive elsewhere, you're really having to be diligent and judicious about the time that you spend. So by knowing if it's successful or not, you can cut ties as fast as possible or move on to another use case that might be way more beneficial. The way to define this and put it in action is to think of one key thing that'll be improved if this use case works out. So say your use case and the thing that'll improve is they'll save 20% of drive time in their day. That's something that we can tangibly look after, something we can track and understand going forward. If you save 50% of time, you went gangbusters and it did amazing. Or if you save 5%, now you know it underperformed. And is it really worth the financial effort that you're putting in, or should you repurpose your time somewhere? It's all about defining the singular thing that you can look back on, because you're going to go back to those check-ins we talked about and say, how close are we to this metric? You're going to say, do all of our systems really move us towards this point and allow us to have the data we need so that we can optimize whatever we have, and so that we can give our technicians the best fighting chance to actually improve their drive time, to get us to the KPI we need to continue this moving forward. AI sits in this strange world right now where it's both incredibly accessible, you know all the models that are popular, you know how to get to them, but at the same point, if you don't exactly understand what's going on, they are kind of mysterious. It's kind of hard to understand, because as a small business owner, time is your number one resource, and using this time to figure out what is an AI model, how to use it, what are the cases that you can use it in within your business. Those are the things that might take your time away from other value add activities, especially when operating a small business, because you have this unique perspective between putting in effort and the reward that's tied to it. If you're in a service business and you go mobile detail a client, you know that the service you just provided them, they will pay you for. So then when you think about something as nebulous as AI, you're sinking time that otherwise will pay you back on the back end, but you don't really know how it'll pay you back on the back end, and you think it'll be productive, but you're actually putting a decent amount of faith into this thing. So it's super important to understand what exactly you're getting into, and then the different ways we can knock down some of the hurdles early on that we have. Otherwise, you run into this world where you start questioning if the time you're spending doing this to help scale your business, the thing you think will be productive, is what you should be doing. Should you just be out doing direct value activities of spending your time for money? And I challenge that, because what ends up happening is you start creating your own ceiling. That's why it's so important to plan accordingly and make sure that you understand all the hurdles that we just went through, having one clear owner for all of your AI initiatives going forward, making sure that it's one person's sole initiative to go through a part of their job and make sure that the use cases that they're a part of and that are helping are actually being moved forward, along with identifying all the systems systems within your company to understand, can they be linked together with AI, or how best can you go utilize AI with the information inside of them. All of the systems you have can be found within one Google search to understand if they are compatible and the best ways to use them. And the third being to have a clear and defined KPI going forward, making sure that you have a clear thing to track against, that your company can know whether it's a success that you implemented this, or maybe this is something underperforming and indeed your time is better spent elsewhere, or at least on a different use case entirely. There's no guarantee that the first use case that you think up for AI within your business is going to work. And that might not even be the right one. But the thing is that it's through constant evolution, the constant effort. If we can eliminate and utilize what these big organizations have done, take their lessons learned, and then give us an opportunity to learn faster, fail faster than them so we can keep moving through, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Because ultimately, if we can fail faster, adapt, and adjust, we are a huge competitive advantage compared to those larger organizations. If you enjoy digging into small businesses and how they can best utilize AI and the different tactics they can use to continue to grow on their journey, subscribe to the Forge and Growth YouTube channel. Until then, see you next time.